Hi again. So now we're going to move on to what happens when our a value is a fraction. So the first one is if our a value is 1/2. Once again, we always find our vertex first. Okay, so here's our h. Our h is a +4. Our k is a +1. So we go to the right 4 and up 1 and put a point for our vertex there. Okay, when we had our a value, when our a value was let's find the one where it's a 2. When our a value was a 2, we multiplied our y by 2. Now we're going to multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. Okay, so all of these values, the 1, the 4, the 9, so you can see from Mr. Polinsky's drawing, so the first one will be 1, and then half of 1 is a half. Then we have to the right 2, and on our standard or normal, it would be a 4. Half of 4 is 2. And then we have 3 and 4.5, because half of 9 is 4.5. So start at our vertex. We're going to go right 1 up a half, right 1 up a half, and Desmos was very nice and helped me put it in the right place. Back to the vertex, right 2 up 2, right 2 up 2. There's a nice point. And if you wanted a third point, you could go right 3 up 4.5, but this was enough to create the graph. Very similar if our a value is 1/3. And remember, if it's negative, it'll be facing down. So instead of up, we always go down. Now we're multiplying our standard or normal y values by 1/3. Okay, so our first one would be right 1 up 1/3, or for this graph, it would be right 1 down 1/3, back to the vertex, right 2 down 1 1/3, right 2 down 1 1/3, back to the vertex. Here's a nice point, right 3 down 3, right 3 down 3, and then we create our graph. Remember, if a is positive, we would go up instead of down. Makes sense, doesn't it? Our final problem, and you had some of these on Desmos, is if you are given a graph, how can you use the graph to write an equation? Okay, so we're going to start, we always start with y equals, and it's good to begin with your hk before moving on to your a value. So we find our vertex, it's right here. That is a +2 and a -4, but we know that when we write our value here, our h value, we're going to write, if we go to the right 2, we have to put a -2, the opposite of what we think, excuse me. And our k value, we went down 4, so is a -4. Now we're going to move on to the a value. So we can see our second point here. We went right 1 up 2. So if we go back to this graph, we can see that right 1 up 2 is when our a value is 2. We can even look at the graph and we see that it is skinny, so that is a vertical stretch. Remember, you're excited to have more money. If it were a fraction, the graph would be wider, a vertical compression. Okay, so if you have to write the equation, find your vertex first, and then locate your next point and find your a value. Use the other examples to help you. That's why I always go back and look at examples. Maybe the numbers are a little different, but it'll be the same idea. Okay, hope this helps.